عارف I don't have anything to talk about خاطر جيتني all of a sudden قلت لي هي let's record the pod واخر حاجه كنت نتوقعها ان عبد الله باش يقول هي let's record actually the pod خاطر I'm always the one اللي نقول لك هي راح.
عرفتك شو تصدم.
لا قلت هذا
أنا
بس
شنو
يطلع في المستير ولا شنو.
أنا مروح هيك
اها
أنا مروح كيما هيك معناها وما يزال ونعرف معناها thinking about what to do وكيش نروح فهمت. متفقدة هيك جاتني قد فما حاجات لازمك تركعها مدري شنية.
ايوه
I was like I ain't doing that shit tonight. أصلا مستحيل هي ترجع غدوة.
well
كهو
شوي قلت let's record the
قلت
freaking
خل
pod.
نشوفك العريض كان هيك خلي let's record the podcast خاطر نهار السبت we didn't.
Yeah, هو actually the two episodes that we already got سيء هبطوا معنا هبطوا واحدة نهار السبت واحدة نهار الأحد هبط زوز حلقات في جرتوا بعضهم. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Chimerians podcast. I am your host Yassine.
I'm your host Abdallah as usual.
Well.
حس البحثان.
بحذياني.
إيش تكتك؟
I don't know, maybe I was second.
تكتيك ولا شنو؟
What about now?
إيه مريقل.
Anyway, I didn't consume anything since the last time we recorded the podcast. I don't know, did you watch the last episode متاع House of the Dragon ولا مازلت؟
last episode مازلت.
معنا episode 9.
Still didn't watch it. episode 9 في باش نتفرج فيها أمس أما وقتاش لقيت روحش نبداها مؤخر.
So you bailed. All right, man. Let's not talk about it. Damn, son.
فيها الليلة الأكثرية.
All right. To be honest, I think it is the weakest of all the episodes. That's just a personal opinion. It's not that فيها معناها كما نقولوا.
تفرجت معناها.
Yeah, I already watched it. I literally.
يقولوا لي watch it كل شيء it's good.
شوف, here's the thing. تعرفها. فما معناها بالمتريكس نتاع the whole show or some other episodes هي الابيسود اللي فيها some problems اللي هم they're not story related
شنو
مهمش معناها كما نقولوا معناها story related problems. The problem I felt is with the pace متاع الإيفنتس وكل it is just a little bit off. It felt a little bit chaotic. معناها مثلا في آخر خاصة في آخر 2 episodes the way of how they're telling the story it is so معناها هذيك it is so tight معناها كل scene it is pushing the story forward وما تحسش فما هيك like wiggling room ولا حاجة زايدة. هذه episode number 9 it was good in terms of معناها كما نقولوا events. فما there are some events اللي that push the story forward. أما شنو فما like those small gaps the story معناها let's say the plot وهاو والpace متاع الابيسود وكل it wasn't that tight as much as the other episode. It wasn't as clean. So there is that. أما it is still a good episode خاصة في الآخر معناها there are some good stuff. People, you know what, you watch it وكانك we'll talk about it next week. Actually next week probably we can also even talk about الابيسود 10 معناها وقت ديجا تبدا صاي هبطت معناها وقتها it's a wrap نتاع House of the Dragon season 1.
ما تفرجتش في الحلقة الأخرانية so I can't judge. I'm out of element.
Anyway, so we're not going to talk about House of the Dragon. Let's talk then about التغذية البصرية اللي انت you consumed in terms of movies. A movie Smile. I don't know يا أخي did the movie هبط يا أخي هو معناه كما نقولوا streaming ولا معناه in HD
on internet ما نعرفش أما معناها in cinemas يس هبط.
أنتم تفرجوا فيه in cinema.
تفرج فيه in cinema.
Nice. It is a horror movie.
It was so random كلا it's a horror movie like كيفاش we were planning احنا باش نمشيو للمول بطبيعتنا فهمت. we went for a game of bowling.
Yep.
Of course he won معناها.
أيوة.
because of the big Lebowski.
أيوة.
بعدها تعدينا to the mall. معناها تعدينا في على أساس معناها كلا our friend was gonna معناها كيما نقولوا buy something and that's all. نقاروا واحنا حاسيلو مشينا نتفرجوا في فيلم. It was random. at first معناها كيما نقولوا suggestion كلا واحد منا قال بنا نتفرجوا في فيلم okay let's go watch a movie. طلعنا شوف
alright.
فما في الليست نلقاو سمايل. قلنا هو ديجا لقيناه احسن شوا معنا في الشوات الاخرين فهمت.
The thing
قلنا بلا
is
نتفرجوا فيه.
هو شو اسمه نتفكر معنا the only thing I know about the movie is that معنا من بوست هبطة شو اسمه خلنا نتفكر على اسلام الجيزاوي and he thinks that the movie is actually good. معنا he said it was a good horror movie فيه some decent jump scares وكل so he kinda liked it. I didn't معنا what do you think of it?
فيلم رعب كما افلام الرعب الاخرين معناها هنا جامب سكيرز وكل شيء. جامب سكيرز ار جود معناها فيهم حاجات كما توقعهمش وكل شيء.
No, right. No, معناها not that your cliche jump scare معناها you see it coming from far away.
هيك وهيك.
في some decent stuff let's say.
في some kind of decent stuff والستوري معناها أنا شوي هيك فيها معناها some new stuff وحاجات معودين أنا it's decent وبارا فهمت.
Well.
decent
Smile.
you watch it with friends هو أنت تتعدى على الراحة.
Was the cinema full ولا empty?
empty.
well, as expected.
like literally كان تحسبهم تقام 20 واحد ماكس.
20 that's
واحد
good.
مش اسمعه الناس كل
20 سما that's good.
أقل.
well
20 كيك يعملوش معنا واحنا ديجا 5.
معناتهم like literally fourth of the cinema.
يب احنا fourth of the cinema. ذاك علاش قلت لك it's not a lot.
well I mean the situation of the freaking country is not متاع people watching cinemas I guess. Anyway
I don't blame them خاطر ما فماش برشا افلام تاع معناها هيك to watch.
in terms of movies
ما فماش lately.
actually
ما فماش اسمه حس مريض
شنو
Amsterdam is looking good. نعرفش كان سمعت بيه ولا.
Amsterdam
like كريستيان بيل مارغوت روبي درشكونا ذاك واشنطن.
I saw the pictures on Facebook. ايه شو اسمه هذاك ولد دينزل واشنطن ولا شو اسمه ولا الاخر كيليان ميرفي. مش كيليان
شنو
تسمى الاكتر نسيت اسمه.
نسيت انا لقبه واشنطن.
هي ولد دينزل واشنطن. Okay, I forget his name. Anyway,
جون
ديفيد واشنطن. Such a cool name.
ودينيرو زاد ايش يمثل فيه.
روبرت دينيرو. All right. المشكلة شنو كل I checked الفيلمز معنا the stuff that are trending شو اسمه on Letterboxd. Actually الفيلم مش موجود. The stuff اللي popular films this week في Letterboxd فما Smile اللي انت you already watched it. الريتنج اللي خذاه by the way فيلم Smile is 3.1. Do you agree? Out of 5.
Out of 5.
Yeah, 3.1. Is that fair or you think it deserves less?
Yeah, maybe kind of fair.
All right. Werewolf by Night. 3.7 out of 5. I have no idea about the movie. Michael Giacchino. Have a music composer, Michael Giacchino, I guess. Yep.
Music composer. He made a horror. He made a movie.
He's the composer of the Batman, Spider-Man No Way Home, شو اسمه Ratatouille, Coco, Inside Out, The Incredibles, Up, مش عارف Jurassic World. He's a big name. Michael Giacchino, and he made a movie. اسمه Werewolf by Night. 3.7. All right, we gotta check it.
Nice.
Michael Giacchino هو زاد اللي عمل الميوزك متاع Lost. الميوزك متاع Lost freaking slaps. Anyway, and والفيلم الآخر اسمه Halloween Ends. أفلام هذه Halloween, The Men Wearing Masks, I'd never watched any of them. يا أخي تفرجت فيهم أنت؟
مش برشا. قبل.
I don't remember them at all. Anyway, 2.3 out of 5. That's literally 5 معناه. Hellraiser.
Hellraiser وقتها.
Razor. Yep.
It's a remake kind of معناه.
It's a remake of a movie. Everything is a remake of a remake.
خاطر فيلم Hellraiser معناه a classical one فهمت. معروف هو Friday 13th وبرشا أفلام كيما كيك. الهورر متاع قبل بتاع someone with a mask وكيك يقتل العباد or something like that.
كيما هالوين. هو actually هو it is already October معناها عادي باش تلقى الافلام كل هورر تهبط تو
ايه spooky season.
spooky season. Anyway, to be honest, in 2022, first of all, it feels مش عارف movies like the Batman, it feels like ages من اللي هبطوا. بالرغم
خاص عندهم بحق برشا.
فما in terms of movies اللي حاليا they are really trending اللي طلعوا على الآخر عام السنين. عندك of course the multiverse of madness. It sucks حسب ما فهمت. نوب متاع شو اسمه جوردن بيل. نوب اللي عمل أس واللي عمل نوب واللي عمل Get Out.
هبطوا الميزان.
already هبط يب. The thing is, what do you think يا أخي أنت of Get Out؟ لحظة I don't know خاطر ستايل هو هذا أصلا بتاع جوردن بيل. تفرجت فيه Get Out of course ديجا طلعت تفرجت فيه.
Get Out تفرجت فيه.
What do you think of it?
It was good خاطر it's something new فهمت. another approach عمل.
I did not like it. I did not like it is a big word, but I don't think it deserves all the hype اللي عارف. It is one of the few معناها just for context عارف مليون و700 ألف عبد تفرج فيه 1.7 million تفرجوا فيه في Letterboxd. هذا معناه يتسمى one of the top movies. معناه it is a big deal. وأصلا معناه people think that it is actually really good. I see معناه اللي هو he made the horror element are actually humans وكل bit. The movie itself I don't
هذيك هي قلت لك معناها it's just because it's another approach.
but in terms of story ولا in terms of suspense ولا feeling the actual horror, I don't know, that movie wasn't, I don't think it is that good. Anyway, ديجا حسب ما فهمت ديجا حتى هو الافلام اللي صنعها بعد عندك فيلم Us. I didn't watch it but probably it will be معناها similar style. و the only reason I might consider watching Nope على خاطر الدايركتور of photography هو هويتفن هويتما معناها هو اللي خدم مع نولان و all of his movies look so gorgeous ومصورنا زاد بالIMAX وكل so there is also that. And it is something like 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Yep, that's an 8.
That is something, man.
I know. عارف, do you find Abdallah, do you find your balance between ratings or your personal opinions about stuff?
Ratings put by who?
In general, do you I'm gonna describe you a situation. Did you ever were in a position where you felt like you need to say the movie is so good because the ratings وكل شيء is tell that it is good even though you hate it?
I don't know. ما جاش لمخي فيلم ما عملت معه هكاك. If the movie sucks, it sucks. If the movie is good.
If so, your metrics are pretty similar للmetrics متاع الcritics. Well,
مش عارف. Not for all movies. معناها فما أفلام يجيني الكريتكس بحق ظلموهم وفما أفلام يجيني الكريتكس معناها made them overrated. أما like in a movie just because معناها rating متاعه قوي.
It's not it is not in that sense. I got you مثلا في فاز أن هي فما خاطر فما أفلام basically will just go under the radar and no one talks about them معناها. But what I'm talking is how much the ratings, let's say, influence your opinion about something. Let's say, for example, if I remember when I was first asked about Get Out, actually I think we talked about it once. I was thinking it was good على خاطر أصلا based on the reviews و the stuff اللي I read about the movie. All right, that's a good movie. When I think of the experience I had to watching the movie, it is not that great. So probably what made me think that it was good is probably the whole talk around the movie and how people are saying that it is a good movie. You don't feel like there is something wrong about you if everyone says that the movie is good even though you don't think it is good.
مش about you ولا حاجة معناها كلما maybe you didn't have the same experience ولا maybe فما حاجة أنت ما شفتهاش. Same thing for me and the social network.
Actually, yeah, that's an example. Yep. انت you hate the social network.
Yeah,
I do
everybody
love.
loves that movie. I fucking hate that movie. I don't know why it's that great, معناها considered to people.
well. Actually, I guess Aaron Sorkin won an Oscar عليه هذاك أصلا. هيك. I'm not sure, but I guess he won an Oscar.
ايه شفت كيفاش معناها.
Aaron Sorkin اللي انت you actually hate.
I don't hate him.
See, but you don't think اللي هو معناه he is actually that great اللي مش عارف عليك. He doesn't deserve all معناه the glory اللي تحس surrounds him.
I'm sure he is great معناها. خاطر معناها عمل فيلم كيما كتب فيلم كيما For a Few Good Men. هذيك تتحسب له فهمت.
Yeah, but عارف it is فما there is a line عارف between انك انت you write a good movie كيما مش عارف a few good men وانك انت you reach the level اللي معناه كيما نقولوا people are considering you one of the best معناه top screenwriters of all time معناه there is a big huge line between them.
لا معناها كلا as the greatest هذيك ما I don't see it.
One of people think that his dialogues are really معناه musical وكل that's some artistic shit right there. The other thing عارف
فما I can see it فيه For a Few Good Men أما ما نعرفش أفلام أخرين عنده هو ما نفهمش برشا أفلام كلها معناها.
He wrote some TV shows أصلاً وكل. Well.
وديجا معناها يعني الأكثرية مش عليه هو ولا على أفلامه ولا حاجة. على الكورس اللي عطيتها لي أنت. كيفاش وقت يحكي في حاجات اللي هما they're so obvious هذاك علاش.
Actually, someone might do something there is a big line between someone doing something and not being conscious about it and someone doing something and being conscious about it.
فاهمك I know that. أما نحكي لك معناها كده ما شفتش حاجة سبيشال فهمت.
Yeah, you gave me the vibe تقول عرفت هذيك اللي كيما مش عارف جماعة السيلف ديف أنا hey be better والناس كلها أنا smooth clapping.
مش حتى كيك ما انا نتصور اللي قالوا هو برشا حاجات صحاح ما وكل شيء they actually work. اما ما شفتش حاجه سبيسيال فهمت. ما انا شنو الحاجه اللي تخليك حل فمك شنو الحاجه اللي تخليك توريك اللي العبد هذاك يخمم بطريقه مختلفه فهمت.
Here's the thing.
مثل تفرجت في الوقت الماستر كلاس نتاع ديفيد لينش.
I did watch also.
حسيت ايه معناها حسيت عنده تخمام اخر معناها كلا برشا حاجات سبيشال معناها فهمت. معناها كي تقول as a writer he is special. Aaron Sorkin معناها يعطيك كل basic stuff معناها typical.
I think here's عرفتها Aaron Sorkin. There are two approaches معناها when it comes to any course in general. عارف let's say for example video editing. You might find a course about Adobe Premiere Pro, how to edit in Adobe Premiere Pro. And you might find another course that talks about editing as an art. Both they do have their own places. بالنسبة للعبد ما يعرفش أصلاً how to edit, it makes sense إنه يتعلم software. Once يتعلم هذاك software, وقتها يمشي يتعلم the art of editing and how to cut وكل. نحس ان الكورس متاع Aaron Sorkin it was the course اللي فيه a lot of technical stuff اللي like teaching you the basics and like hey this is a story, this is what makes a story a story, this is what makes a good story وكل معناته it was a lot of technicalities and a lot of stuff اللي it might sound obvious but it just معناها كيما نقولوا will give you beginner approach let's say ولا حاجة كيما كاك on the art of storytelling. متاع David Lynch it was more معناها كيما نقولوا هذيك اللي let's think of how you can get ideas. Here's how you can get ideas. مش عارف ideas are like مش عارف a fish اللي that you're trying to fish ولا مش عارف شنو. Here's how you should think. Here's stuff that might help you to come up with great ideas وكل. اللي هذيك it's more معناها كيما نقولوا it's not as practical as much it is معناها it will tell you hey this is how this person thinks and this is probably how you should also معناها this is how we also معناها can come up with ideas وكل.
Which one you think is more helpful?
It depends on where you are on the spectrum. معناها if someone who doesn't know معناها how to write a screenplay ولا someone who doesn't have at least a basic understanding of what is a story وقت it will make more sense إن يتفرج متاع Aaron Sorkin. على خاطر if you go watch direct متاع David Lynch alright the man is just talking about how to come up with ideas.
ايه هذيك اللي جاتني اهم معناها.
um
How to come up with ideas. هذا في الاخر تشوش تكتب ideas معناها. صار
yeah,
عبد يعرف يكتب وكل شيء ما عندوش حتى idea.
there is a huge difference. عارف it's not just about the idea, there is also the concept of the story, which I think is way much more important than the idea itself. The
لا
idea.
فاهمك هيك معناها حتى عندك idea لازمك تعرف كيفاش تحطها في ستوري. اما نحكي لك باقي ما شفتش حاجه معناها سبيشال قالها ايرون سوركن في الحاجات هذيك.
Because he's
حاجه اللي
just
تخلي بالحق ستوري بتاعك معناها كيما نقولوا بعيده على ستوريز الاخرين معناها.
to be honest for me it was على خاطر معنى I'm gonna tell you مثلا for example عبدالله مش عارف let's take مش عارف random name رامي مش عارف فاقر من الصباح مشي الحانوت شري خبز ورجع للدار. is that a story؟
ايه
ريد مثلا at this for me I don't think it is a story على خاطر
it's a story.
it is an event. It is an event معناه it becomes a story once it will have معناه كيما نقولوا some context around it ولا there is some conflict اللي that will go throughout. شنو الفرق معناه ما بين باهي journaling as معناه journaling معناه الصحافة وكل and the story is journaling a story.
A journal can be a story.
It becomes a story the moment it when it start having the stuff really defined as a story. Not everything can be a story معناها.
ايه ما قلت مش not everything. ايه اما دامك حصلت بديت بايفنتس معناها كل شيء names.
What is a story for you
already
بهي
have a
لحظة؟ Do you have how معناها what is your definition for a story ولا how you understand stories and a succession of events?
bunch of characters تربطهم events. حتى كاركتر برك المهم كده كاركتر ايفنتس هذيك هي.
Character events. Yeah معناها كما نقولوا انت for you if there is a character and there are events then that will make a story.
Yeah character events و time.
Character but what are the nature of the events معناها any sort of event ولا there are also rules for the events and in your opinion.
كي انت والايديا اللي عندك معناها ما فماش ايفنت ما فماش رول فور ايفنتس معناها انت كيفاش تشوفها تتعمل وانت والايديا اللي عندك.
The thing is على خاطر شنو when I think of what I will define as a story in الevent انت for you معناها it doesn't matter the events as long as you have characters whatever those characters are معناها كما نقولوا.
لا ما قلتلكش it doesn't matter. ما قلتش it doesn't matter بالعكس.
But in a certain way you said معناها كما نقولوا you said إن مش بالضرورة تكون فما rules على those events.
إيه ما فماش rules خاطر أنت the way you see it معناها تنجم تحط rules ما يمشيوش مع the way I see معناها كما نقولوا story متاعي is going فهمت. هذيك أنت كيفاش تحبها مش معناها هي ماهيش مهمة مش معناها ما لهاش rules معناها ماهيش مهمة. خاطر events راه تنجم تكون
That's معناها كما نقولوا it can be documentary stuff.
شوف تحكم فيها برول.
Actually معناها كما نقولوا مثلا for example let's say I was gonna say documentary but even documentaries are some sort of a story على خاطر فما character wanting something or something standing in their way of getting it. I'm talking about معناها when you talk for example about events just happening that
events just happen.
معناها عبدالله فاق الصباح مشي الحانوت شري خبز مشي مش عارف بعتالي فطر بعتالي he sat on the computer مش عارف he played some music then he took a nap then he watched a movie then he slept again. This is not a story or let's say على خاطر هني I understood into your vision and انت what you see is basically معناه as long as there is something happening صحيح you got a story هيك ولا؟
شوف هي انت شوف ايش قاعد تعمل انت قاعد توصف لي في a good story and a bad story مش ستوري في حد ذاته.
That's what I was gonna على لحظة معناها
كيفاش قاعد تعمل
and for me the word story I'm relating it more toward معناها كما نقولوا an actual story the idea of the story اللي we all know إن فما some build up
actual story
the stuff اللي I mentioned it's not like that those are just events. You start talking about good story and bad story the moment you start معناها having معناها كما نقولوا a story the stuff اللي I was mentioning is not a story أصلا.
طب أنت قلت as long as you have a story
as long as you have a story you can عارف معناها you can't talk about a good story or a bad story if you don't have one at the first place.
ايه ما نحكي لك it can be a story معناها ما غير مش معناها bad story معناها it's not a story.
It cannot be a story على خاطر it doesn't have the معناها the criteria of a story. The criteria of a story, someone wanting something standing of their way of getting it. That's what a story is.
هذيك اللي قالها أرون سوركن.
I find عارف أخطأ معناها I find it برسم universal. It is like عارف هيك the golden rule of what is a story. على خاطر whenever I think of any sort of movie.
اللي قلت أنت رامي وكاب مشي يغسل وجهه مشي يفطر كل شيء هنا he's wanting something.
But nothing is standing of their way of getting it.
ليش المشكلة؟ There will stand something in his way.
وقتها we can start talking about a story. مش عارف Abdallah he wake up in the morning but for whatever reason the door was locked and so he معناه كما يقولوا he needed a way to figure out how to مش عارف how to break the door ولا مش عارف because you can build مش عارف an urge because he need to go to the bathroom quickly ولا حاجة كما نك. وقتها you get a story, you have stuff happening, you get a معناه something is standing in your معناه in the way of getting to the thing, to the goal. That's what a story is.
انت ماكش شك رديتها ستوري هي في الاولى ستوري ما انت رديتها more exciting وكذا.
It did become a story when you start implementing the elements of a story.
يود elements of a story من قبل رانا نعرفوهم places و times و characters و events من قبل.
Nope. That cannot be defined as a story. على خاطر
هيك هي story انت حبيت تردها more interesting وكذا.
Nope. Not just معناها انت what you say is the succession of events by itself is a story.
ايه
and I don't think I don't see, the succession of events is not a story because it doesn't have the criteria of a story.
He wanted something. Someone wanted something and he did it, but he wanted something else and he did it. work out هنا story. علاش لازم إلا ما يوقف قدامه حد شيء هذيك just to make it more interesting لا أكثر لا أقل.
على خاطر the definition of this معناها there is a line between أنا كنت you start talking about a story and a line when you start just talking about journaling ولا daily stuff ولا just an event.
مش حتى daily stuff هذيك هي نجم نصنع لك adventure كاملة without no obstacles معناها.
You can't. No way.
علاش you can't. معقول ما تعدل لك نهار مريقل في حياتك.
And probably that day will be so freaking boring that it won't make for a story. We always remember the days اللي فيهم some sort of.
بالعكس.
You always remember the days اللي فيهم some stuff happening. معناها كيما نقولوا you معناها أنت imagine if it is monotone معناها كيما نقولوا.
شخص يبدأ عندك نهار مسهل من الأول. راك حبيت تطلع لتونس تلقى جاتك آخر بلاصة في اللواج. كبت. مشيت فرجت الفيلم تاعك كيما حبيت تشخت وكل شيء ويو ديسكرايبين الفيلم هايلك وكل. قلت حبيت تروح لجرجيس تلقى آخر بلاصة خذيتها أنت ورحت لجرجيس.
That never happened to me.
It's not interesting. It's a story.
It is not a story. It is not a story. It can't make a good
story.
It is not.
It's not interesting. ضربت على الطاولة تو إيش عملت؟
Kinda, yep. يا ودي you can't talk about you can't talk about a story as long you can't have. We're talking على أساس إن the succession of events is a story. It is not. This is just random succession of random events. وكهو.
وهم مربوطين ببعضهم ما مش راندوم. أنت كم ما حبيتش كم ما تنجمش كم ما ماكش تفرج في الفيلم راك ما خذيتش اللواج هذاك فهمت وكم ماكش مراحل الجيسر ما خذيتش.
باه you know what شوف
ما هوش راندوم. عارف شو تقول
انت you get so technical in the details
اللي هو you can't.
But in general let's say take the word as it is معنى story. Let's not get so technical whether the succession of events is a story or not. Let's take معنى the word as we understand it, a story قصة. فيها some criteria ولا لا؟ معنى that's what was the line of thoughts اللي we started with this convo?
Arnold Sorkin.
Yeah وبعدها yeah we were talking about whether the stuff اللي he said was great or not. Anyway الحصيل the thing معناه for me it was like he made me conscious about the concept of a story معناه like hey whenever مش عارف I have an idea is there a way to implement it into a story معناه you start thinking like مش عارف hey I come up with this great idea sometimes معناها يمكن ما تجيكش معناها the idea of the story directly. أنا وقتها I feel like it will be good if like hey what is a story? It is about having معناها كيما نقولوا conflicts. معناها let's say he made the process of writing a story so technical in a way that you can basically if ديجا أنت كنت تفكر وقتها when we were creating شو اسمه الستوري متاع هذاك revenge is sweet. It was so technical على خاطر فما some hey do this and do this and do this and do this because that's what we define as a story, as a compelling story. معناها same thing and for me what the thing I enjoyed about Aaron Sorkin he gave you a blueprint kinda of how to think of stories. معناها once you have an idea think then of this, then think of this, then think of this, then think of this. You got a story وقتها. معناها you're not just معناها having random ideas وكل.
هنا معناها كيما نقولوا كيفاش تنظمها و make it easier معناها كل شيء. How to make a story work هذيك هي.
Yeah, kinda. You can think about it that way.
هذيك هي أنا أعطاك فازة to make a story work فهمت.
It's not فازة. He gave you the concept.
Just do this.
He gave you the concept.
The safest choices فهمت.
It is not the safest choice. على خاطر literally concept اللي هو he gave كيما تنجم you use it مش عارف to write something as great as Pulp Fiction كيما you can use it to write the shittiest movie ever مش عارف I don't know مش عارف كيما The Room. It is literally the same concept.
مش تزيد من الايديا هذه.
what I meant is
the same concept مش تزيدني مال.
هو معناه بالفلاق معناه ما عطاكش هو فازة he didn't give you مش عارف هذاك اللي مش عارف a magic tool that hey will solve all of your problems. No, he just made you conscious about شو اسمه the gears of a story.
تو انت مسكي قلت لي same rules هذوكم اللي عطاهم لنا. You can make with them a good movie كيما تنجم تعمل بيهم a bad movie. شنو هي utility نتاعهم مالك هناك.
عبدالله
تنجم تعمل a bad movie كيما تنجم تعمل a good movie.
You get a story بعتلي making the story original كل شيء that's up to you معناه. There is a difference between a generic story and a good story, a creative stories. معناه it is like عارف هو كيما he gave you معناه كيما نقول الفورم نتاع الصحن but it is up to you to fill it with good stuff.
هيك فاش نحكي لك أعطاك معناها كل basic stuff.
أنت do you think عبدالله إن a story should have rules؟
لا.
معناه well معناه I don't think for example a story should have conflict.
كلمة should ما لا معناها كيما تنجم فيها كيما تنجم ما فيهاش أما يستحب إنه يكون فيها.
هي شوف there's always معناه كيما نقولوا خليني أخمم لك في an example. There will always be an exception معناها. There will always be an exception. مش عارف.
Exactly هذاك علاش.
أما
مش حتى exceptions نجم يجيك عبد من غير conflict ويعمل لك good movie man.
The thing is شنو تعرف هذيك اللي how to think of it. تعرفها معناها you can't for me you can't break the rules if you don't know already the rules معناها.
قلت لي
you can't break the rules if you don't know the rules. I don't know نجيني that's
مين هذيك في
هذاك علاش معناها for example when مثلا when you say اللي هي معناها كما يقولوا he didn't say anything new ولا حاجة. For me he made me conscious about the rules of a story. So for example in the future if I'm going to break a certain rule معناها established rule I will know why معناها I will be conscious about what I'm doing. It is not that I'm just doing something without knowing what I'm doing.
لا هي تعاون ما قلتلكش ما تعاونكش معناها ولا ما تزيدك شيء. It's good فهمت.
You said it didn't give معناها he didn't say anything new.
ما جبتلكش حاجة جدد ولا حاجة سبيشال معناها فهمت. أما في الآخر معناها كلا ما تتقيدش بها برشا فهمت. معناها ما تخليهاش أنت مثل تحب تعمل حاجة قول حسب ما قال أرون سوركن this won't work يفصل عليه.
المشكل what he said I can't imagine a scenario plutôt I don't know a movie where الكونسبت اللي هو he gave غلطين معناه plutôt are not applicable.
ما فماش حاجة اسمها غلطة في فازت هذوك.
I know it is art and it's sorry there is no wrong because it's, at the end of the day it's just a form of expression. There's nothing wrong. And what I meant is do you know a movie اللي ما فيش الidea of someone wanting something something standing in their way of getting it. I can't.
ما تعرفش عليه باقي. Maybe someone would make it work.
Do you know a movie اللي فيه الفازة هذه؟
ما نقعد الله وجهك هيك برشا معناها.
Nothing comes to your mind directly.
Nothing comes to your mind directly.
خاطر عارف هي the idea معناها هي الكونسبت هو هذاك معناها of someone wanting something standing of their way of getting it. When you think of the factor اللي معناها movies use which is time, عارف it feels like معناها مطبوعة هذيك in how our world works. معناها إن there is a beginning, there is a middle and there is an end. معناها أي فيلم باش تكون عند الفاكتور هذاك. not because حبيت ولا ما حبيتش، في الآخر ما دام أنت you're doing something through time, you will always have a beginning and a middle and an end, no matter what. That's why you will. Any freaking movie will have a character trying to reach something. Well, there is something happening. معناها there are some obstacles. هذاك علاش there is no escape. معناها I can't imagine a scenario where you don't have a story, or let's say you don't have the concept هذاك متاع someone wanting something standing of their way of getting it. على خاطر it plays on the nature of how our world works. معناها time moves forward. Always there will be a beginning, a middle and an end. There is always structure. There is always something happening.
لحظة وجهك. هي شنو عريض هذوكم حاجات ناتشرال بتاعت معناها الفاست انه شيء اصلا زي
فاست شنو خاطر صوت قص
من اي بارتي. قلت لك فاست من every story has a beginning and an ending و middle. هذيك ما عادش رول اكثر ما ولات اصلا نيتشر. فهمت؟ كانت رول قبل وكانت معناها كلا people care about it وكل شيء. خاطرك basically لازم تبدا معناها كلا كيما نقولوا introducing characters والجو هذاك ويبدا معناها فهمك الكالم هيك من الاول. بعد معناها يصير الكونفليكت يصير معناها الكونفليكت ويقعدوا معناها كيما نقولوا trying to solve it وكل شيء. لين في الاند معناها كيما نقولوا كيفاش توفى الحكايه هذيك. تو ما عادش تو basically حتى في وسط الكونفليكت هذاك تاخذ بارتي بركه تعمل بها في فاش بدات هاني ذيك هي البدايه نتاعها من الاول يبدا كونفليكت ولا حتى ما فماش وكيفاش وفات نجم توفى حتى مازلنا ما وصلناش معنا الاند اللي هي نورمال تكون الاند. فهمت؟ انا تكون اند سولفد ولا حاجه. معناها هذيك مهما كانت البارتي اللي اشتخاها من الحكايه تكون عندها beginning واند وميدل اللي هو
exactly. خاطر that's how
كان الوقت وكهو
بالضبط. that's how our universe works. ولا مش عارف it is great.
هذاك علاش معناها هذيك it's not even a rule. فهمت؟ it's a nature. خاطر فما وقت قاعد يمشي وكهو.
yeah that's what created
اللي بعد ما توفى.
that's what معناها معناها that's what creates معناها كيما نقولوا you need to create the sense of movement, stuff moving forward always. that's what defines the story for us. معناها the moment اللي انت you break that logic you end up with something weird or not something
like maybe someone would break that logic ويمشي اموره مريقل. كيما الحيوان نولان انا ديما يلعب بالوقت.
he doesn't. he plays عارف he plays with time but
no,
just
literally جاب لك حاجه it goes backwards.
no what I meant is when you say he plays with time معناها انت you meant معناها within the context of the story.
يدي you can't ما تنجمش تهرب من انه فما beginning و end. تقلب الوقت تمشي backwards بليش تعمل تمشي backwards النقطه اللي مشيت منها هذيك البيجينينج والباكوردز ماشي towards the end. معناها زايد هذاك الوقت ما يتقلبش
بالضبط. معناها if you I got you
nature.
yeah because time always moves forward doesn't move backward. انت مثلا في فاز التنت what you talk about
معناها ما عندك ما تعمل هيك ما تنجمش تبدلها الحاجه هذيك it's impossible باش تبدلها بالليش تعمل باش تقعد تحت نفس النيتشر.
yeah
ايه معناها شنو اللي يتبدل هيك شو مهما كانت الحاجه اللي تعملها هذيك راه معناها الحاجه هذيك معناها شنو معناها انت قلت it defines the story. it defines everything هذيك.
it defines what I meant is and it defines the story in the sense of stuff معناها كما نقولوا should be moving forward. معناها there are obstacles happening they overcome them through time. معناها that's what a story is. that's what I meant.
هذيك باقي to make the story more interesting أكثر لا أقل يعني مش هكذا it defines the story.
انت you get so technical اللي انت معنا كيما نقولوا
انت اللي وقعت سويتك
I'm not على خاطر
يعني قلت
اني
لك
I'm
اتس
taking
ارت،
اني
قلت
what
لك
I'm
اتس ارت وخلي مذهب بها كذا. تحب تعمل obstacles، تحب تعمل back in time، تحب عليه انت it's art. You don't put rules on it, we don't restrict them. انت you get technical، انت اللي وينك.
I'm not, I'm not getting I'm not getting technical. What I meant is ان for me اني واخذ اني المفهوم بتاع الستوري بالمفهوم اللي بالعربي قصة. انت كي تجيبش تحكي قصة اوتوماتيك ما تقدرش تحكي في قصة اللي ما فيش obstacles. If you will get really معناها كيما نقول if you will start focusing on the nitty gritty details متاع ياسين هز الماوس الفوق، ياسين هز الماوس لوطة، that's the story.
بس انا how about when I'm telling a joke
ايش به؟
a funny story
yeah
اللي ما فيهاش obstacle and it just has a punchline. ايش عملنا وقت هاي؟
actually
nobody wants something، nobody يحب على حد شيء. someone walks to a bar و someone said a funny line.
Yep.
How about that?
ايش
That's
بيه؟
not a story.
That's not a story.
Hey, that's not a story.
No, that's not a story.
هلا كيف تغلط. They literally say it's a funny story.
It's a funny story. شوف when you say it is a funny story معناها there are stuff اللي انت you're going through معناها there are some obstacles و there is something that
لا ها قلت لك الجوكس متاع someone walks into a bar. لا حكيت نحكي لك كاني فيهم تاع كتلام متاع فاطمة كل شيء.
alright ايه
أكثرش من هيك.
yeah
ايه أنا someone says a funny line ذيك اللي حكي لك اللي كان.
ايه a funny line it's a funny line it's not a story.
يعني ليه نقري
yeah
يعني ليه نقري هيك وكل شيء. بعدين تقوم فاطمة في وسط العباد الكل كي تقول لي يا سيدي راه قال لي هيك وهيك ودرا شنيا. everybody laughs وكو. That's a story.
that's not a story.
ذولا obstacles لحد شيء and it's interesting and it's funny and
it is not a story. المشكلة على خاطر
معناها ما عادش كانني وكو.
it is a joke. It is an event.
شنو هانا story.
It is an event. It is not a story.
It's a story. أكثر من event. It's not just one event معناها.
باش يقول هزت الكرسي بعدت الكرسي وقفت she told the joke بعد لي she sit down everyone laughed. you can't break it down to smaller stuff. باهي small events. أما take it كل as just one event.
It's a story.
It is not a story. It's not just a story. Is not just a succession of events.
It actually is معناها كيبداو مربوطين ببعضهم.
It is not.
فما حدش يكون عاملين مش مربوطين في بعضهم.
A story it becomes a story when those succession of events are معناها كما نقولوا follow. I don't want a certain rules. It follows how a natural story. rules سميهم باسدي rules.
مش حاجة اسمها natural story يا عريض. مش حاجة اسمها natural. The only natural story اللي تحكي عليها هي story اللي تخضع للوقت. وكهو.
A compelling story.
اللي هو الكون الكل معناها اللي هو الكون الكل يخضع للوقت معناها خاطر ما باش تتعدى من حالة لحالة أخرى. باش تتعداه كمان يبدأ عندك البعد الرابع اللي هو بتاع الوقت. Other than that, you can't put rules on stories. باي أنت شوف حتى stand up comedians معناها.
Yeah.
Look at the stories معناها they make وكل شيء. لا فما conflict لا فما عراك لا حد شيء. Yet they told the story and it's funny وفيها برشا events.
المشكلة the majority معناها I didn't watch a lot of stand-up comedians, but the majority of the jokes they will be throwing, if they will put it inside a context of a story, you will see in them they're wanting something. They're wanting something. Something happened.
Hey, when an obstacle.
Yeah, isn't that in the middle? Isn't that
conflict?
There are obstacles. It doesn't need the obstacles always to be climbing a mountain. Man, it can be something simple.
ايه وساعات ما فماش obstacles جملة ساعات معناها situation is funny okay.
وقت it's not a story.
علاه؟
Think of any
مش بالضرورة لازم فما obstacle.
Think of any مش عارف comedy movie. There's always a plot. There's always something happening. There's always معناها كما نقولوا obstacles happening stopping your main character or characters from reaching a certain goal. اللي هم they want to reach by the end.
As I told you to make it more interesting وكهو.
يا أخي isn't story supposed to be interesting?
تي هكا فاش نحكي لك انت احنا نحكيو اللي هي it's supposed to be more interesting على خاطر عندك audience باش تتفرج فيها وعباد باش تتفرج فيها. اما as a definition of a story ما تنجمش تحصرها، فهمت؟ هكا فاش نحكي لك انت قاعد تخلط ما بين definition of a story وانه story is, that is interesting، فهمت؟
Isn't all stories are supposed to be interesting?
nope. ثم stories ما عمره ما
Why
عبد
would you
يحكي
tell
لك
a story
حكاية
if it is
مثلا
not
تخرج بها بشيء.
interesting?
maybe you thought it was interesting وهي it's not. maybe it's just some random thing معناها.
Yeah, but that's that. In that case, something random. That why would it be a story, man? In that case, if it is not a story at the,
because it happened.
not because something happened that doesn't make it معناها توصل للlevel بتاع story. Stories are about change, معناها.
sometimes the stories اصلا انت ما تكونش فيهم، انت تلقاك you're just telling them. انت you're describe، انت قاعد تقول اني مشيت لبلاصه وقاعد نمشي، you're describing what you saw معناها كل شيء in terms of events. you're literally telling a story معناها.
You're not telling a story, okay? You're just journaling, okay? You're just journaling, okay? It's not a story.
And it's a story. هما journal معناها هما اصلا journalists معناها كل they're looking for stories ديما.
They're looking صحيح they're looking for stories على خاطر stories there are an element of compellingness to them. What would make مش عارف a journalist معناها pick مش عارف a certain topic or a certain story over another? Because it is better story. There are معناها they want to pick story. They want to pick a story. They don't stories. No مش عارف
هما زوز stories. انت داوم زدكي قلتها what would make a journalist pick a story over another story. معناها هما زوز stories واحدة خير من الأخرى.
لا شوف when I said and he wants to pick a story over another I already meant a story. I didn't mean just a succession of event. انت you're trying to say a succession of event is a story. Succession of just random events is not a story.
If it's told معناها.
Nope. Succession of events is not a story. That's just journaling. The moment it becomes a story is the moment you start
you're mixing. You're mixing ما بين making a story interesting with just a story. هذيك هي الأكثر لا أقل.
Nope. You can't a story. There is you see any sort of succession of events as a story, and for me it is not. I see stories as an element of succession of events with certain criterias should be met. That's what a story is.
هذاك كيما قلت لك انت you're thinking as a filmmaker مش in general. as a filmmaker كانش تخمم في حكاية تجيبها interesting لأكثر لا أقل، فهمت؟
And that's what a story is, معناها. That's what
that's not what a story is. I mean that's what we're looking for. وكا معناها بالنسبة للفيلم ميكر ولا عبد شي يعمل لك story either telling it ولا making a movie ولا making معناها كيما نقولوا ولا معناها كيما نقولوا تي في شو. بصيف من عليك لازم تجيبها interesting على خاطرك عندك viewers وعندك معناها جماهير وعندك عباد تتفرج.
And that's what is a story.
A story معناها هذيك هي story is bunch of characters و events و time and space. أما إنك أنت as a filmmaker interesting فهمت؟ هذيك كيما قلت لك أنت you're just talking about an interesting story شو لازم يكون فيها.
Nope.
خاطر كيف كتولي معناها كلها.
I can give you معناها what you think is an interesting story but it won't be interesting. معناها there are a shit ton of bad stories even though they meet the criterias. It's not necessarily معناها كيما قلت أنت what will make it interesting. فهمت شنو قصدي؟
أنت علاش مثلهم فهمت شنو قصدك كما هذيك هي كيفاش معناها like I'm telling something without obstacles without anything مش تكون interesting قد story معناها كيما نقولوا فيها obstacles وكل.
It is not a story at the first place.
في الآخر كيبدأ فما obstacle في story شو تكون بطبيعة كلها more interesting. معناها أنا مثال قاعد نحكي في حكاية شو نقول لك والله مشيت لتونس معناها وكل شيء ومشيت عديت وقعدت accepted وبعتلك جيت مراوح معناها نلقاها مسهلة قصتي كي وركبت هيك كل شيء هاني تو بحذاك هيك كل تقول يا يعطيك الصحة وباهي جاتك مسهلة كل شيء. أما كيش نقول لك مثال نقول لك والله مشيت كيما كاك وجيت نركب على الكار يا أخي فما شكون ركب قبلي قعدت نستنى الخمسة وما نعرفش درشنية وبداو المشاكل هيك ودرشنية تلقاك أنت معناها كيما نقولوا now you're more excited تحب تعرف الحق شنو صار في الاخر فهمت. نقول لك ما نعرفش وقفني هيك الحاكم هيك كل شيء وما باوش يسيبوني من الاول. نقول لك انا ما باوش يسيبوني من الاول معناها انت you're expecting maybe باوش يسيبوني ما تحب تعرف علاش وقتها تزيد معناها كيما نقولوا more elements you're making the story more interesting وكل شيء. الاخرى اللي I told you it's a story والثانيه it's a story اما الثانيه it's more interesting على خاطر فيها more elements وفيها conflicts وفيها obstacles وكذا. That's it. معناها ريت آرون سوركن كي يحكي لك على ال elements of a story وكل شيء he meant how to make a story work.
I don't know. I just googled the definition of a story. عارف what I found? A story is a depiction of a journey. In a story we follow a character or a series of characters on a journey as they pursue something up against certain obstacles. That's what definition of a story.
I don't know about that. I'm still not convinced.
هي شوف it's just a succession of events or anyway we literally spent 56 minutes so far just talking about what is a story.
اللي نريد الحين نتفرج مش نتفرج في الحلقة. ما تقنع فينا حد أصلا.
Yeah.
They decide كلا who won next you decide.
Well.
Battles of history.
At least I know what I'm going to title this episode. Huh?
تفرج في epic rap battles of history.
Nope.
مرة بعثت لك وقت نتاع سبيلبرغ versus
هذوكم yeah هذوكم وقت تفرجت فيهم حتى مع بعضنا.
You should watch more والله في برشا حاجات interesting. Anybody who's listening to this وما يعرفش epic rap battles you should check them well.
Epic rap battles. Well. Anyway, I guess that's a wrap.
Let's move to song suggestions.
هذاك هو فاش تسألنا أنت. Well. باهي شو تا عبد الله you throw a suggestion.
أما go with هي نورمال نعرفها من قبل لما تومز اكتشفتها بالزهر مع الجماعة. اللي هي No Church in the Wild.
No Church in the Wild. شكون اللي غناها؟ Let me see. No Church in the Wild. Kanye West. Damn.
Yep.
I did not expect that.
It's so good. باش نبعث لك أنا كيما نقولوا ميوزك فيديو متاعها مش الأوريجينال. هذا كيما عملت لك المرة اللي فاتت وقت اللي قلت لك it's AI generated.
Yeah, they're starting to use that shit in a lot of bunch of stuff. I was watching اليوم basically the yearly event متاع Adobe اسمه Adobe Max where they announced the new features اللي باش يولوا جو للفوتوشوب وكل. They're implementing an AI engine في وسط الفوتوشوب. Basically you type I want an ocean beneath this element واللي يحط لك element اللي عينك فيه. That's how crazy it is getting في وسط الفوتوشوب.
والله حوار.
So there is that.
مش مازال ما عملوش شيء.
Yep.
Basically شو اللي أنت تخمم في حاجة تخمم فيها تستخيلها في مخك تلقاها حاضرت.
Anyway, for me I'm going.
أنا بعثلك لوحدك
I will check.
أنا فيها كلا like every line معناها كيما نقولوا every line is AI generated.
هذيك ديجا already بعثتها لي أنت وقتها.
لا
تاع بيريت.
بعثلك تاع بيلي جين وبيتت
alright.
ولا ظهر لي ثريلر ولا حاجة كيما. هي No Church in the Wild اللي قلت لكم عليه.
Anyway, for me I'm going to recommend a guilty pleasure song اللي هي Without You متاع Avicii. I don't know for whatever reason.
Avicii. From classical music to Avicii.
Yeah. I don't know. It just reminds me بيمت اليوني قال واحد عم خاصة عم تزيماني وقت نتفكر كي نخرج الصباح من الدار اللي على الثاني. Anyway, actually what I need to check one thing before we end this freaking podcast just to make sure of the date. I guess oh no
عود the Italian job حق.
Nice. Well. Just الحصيله for context. He probably in 20 minutes. تتفكر عبد الله the picture اللي I printed for you في هذيك صورة birthday. That picture was taken tomorrow. Will be taken tomorrow. So there is that. Anyway.
Will be taken tomorrow.
Yep. معنى that I took that picture كانت تتفكر في أكتوبر معنى the 19th of October 2019. Damn. 2019.
2019 3 سنين ما يكون عندي.
Yep, there were 3 سنين. Anyway, maybe
Yeah,
someday we
وبعدها.
can share that picture. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Chimerians podcast. And we will talk to you all next week when we do have more stuff to talk about.
على الأقل.
Yeah, and we can have a
The
fight
last
about
episode.
it. So yeah, peace.
See ya.